So you want me to make a joke?
I don't want you to. I just think...
I'm hearing that you want me to make a joke. That's... what was it? That we're talking about sex magic for the finale.
Mm-hmm.
So in some regards, you could say it's the climax.
Hello.
Hello.
Remember how we said that we would try and be more polite and say hello to each other and say hello to the listeners.
Hello,
and
listeners. Viewers.
Yeah, so we made it to the end of season 3.
The finale.
And we didn't balls it up too much. I mean, we ballsed up bits of season 3 like we ballsed up bits of season 2. But when I think about it, although we are 3 seasons in to our...
We are no more professional.
Yeah, we are 3 seasons into That Magick podcast. But when I think about it and what helps me sleep at night is that actually we are only 3 times 8 episodes, which is...
24?
24. So that's really quite baby.
Plus 2 paid for episodes. If I'm right, does the most recent paid episode,
the one
that
where
isn't
we
out
hung,
yet?
Yeah, no, it is. It is.
Okay.
Yeah. So the one where we hunt ghosts at
Doesn't
the
that have,
Elizabethan house.
On-set footage as well?
It does have some on-set footage within the confines of GDPR. Yeah. So as much as I would have loved to have gone in like Zach Bagans and just kicked the door in and been like, right, where are the ghosts? And like have little teams set up and be on the, what was that? Walkie-talkies and stuff like that. I would have loved all that.
Yeah.
But no.
The full event.
Yeah, the full event did not happen, sadly, because of GDPR and you can't film other people and you can't do anything near other people. So
people suck.
GDPR sucks.
That's what I mean.
But hey ho. But yes, there is some footage.
Like outside broadcasting unit.
Yeah, exactly. We went on location.
Yeah.
All sorts of stuff. Yeah. So that's good.
Professional.
Again, within the confines of GDPR. Next time we do anything like that where we go on location, I'm going to take some release forms with us and say, this is your GDPR consent. Just sign here. That'll be fine, I'm sure. I'm sure the company that takes us won't mind that at all. Anyway, enough of that.
Yes.
Right, so this is our final episode of That Magick podcast, season 3, which is...
sex magic.
Something you have badgered me about. Season 2.
Whoa. In my defense, you introduced sex magic as a term. It's just like a throwaway comment in an earlier episode.
Season 2, yeah.
And then just expected it to just, that's fine. That needs no further prodding.
It was the one about gatekeeping.
Stroking, perhaps.
Oh, for God's sake. It was in the one about gatekeeping where I think I suggested that it isn't gatekeeping to refuse to teach someone about sex magic when they are underage, vulnerable, otherwise incapable of
and that still
consenting.
All makes sense, perfectly on board.
Yeah,
but the unanswered element of that remained, what the fuck is sex magic?
Yeah, all right. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
That's what we're here to talk about.
What I was thinking, you should be reassured that I didn't already know. And this week has been an eye-opener.
Has it?
In my research. Yeah.
Oh, you've been
Wikipedia.
Googling on your work laptop?
No, not on my work laptop.
Good.
Yeah. Private browser.
Indeed. Sign up for duty, private browser.
We should we should point out that this episode might get a little graphic, a little...
How graphic?
Gross. Well, some of the things that you were saying to me last night in preparation for the episode, concepts and stuff. I mean...
Yeah, don't be eating.
They're not pleasant.
No, don't be eating. Put your breakfast down.
So there's not going to be any, like nudity or anything for people that are watching it. There's not going to be any noises for people that are listening to it. But the concepts that are going to be explained, I mean, there's no holding back, is there?
No.
And some of it is gross.
Yeah. So if you're listening with kids in the car, be prepared to
Sorry for already swearing.
Yeah. So be prepared to answer some really awkward questions. Anyway.
It's gross.
So I guess my question to you in the first instance would be, without going straight to the porn industry, where does this show up in pop culture?
So this is interesting because I didn't really think it did so much. Having Wikipedia'd and learned a little bit more about what it actually is. And should we explain to people the
very broad, So sex magic is using the human orgasm to achieve a different state of consciousness, either a higher state of consciousness, somewhere along the lines of transcendence, or even a lower state of consciousness, somewhere in what we might look at as corruption. And I'll just use that as a vocabulary because it's not about judgment. It's not trying to layer on some sort of, I don't know, moralistic judgment onto this. It isn't about that. Sex magic is not about that. It's just about exploring human consciousness through the human orgasm. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is to explore polarity, which is something I'm not completely on board with because it's sex magic polarity between the male and the female, which we know is I don't know how to express it, but it is not as simple as that.
It's a bit narrow.
It is incredibly narrow to assume that only heterosexual people who identify as male and then female can participate in this. So I'm not 100% on board with that, but that's the other aspect of it. And then the third aspect of it is to have some mystical occurrence be the whole point of it. Otherwise, it's just having sex.
Yeah. So, Cliff Notes version.
Yeah.
Channeling the power of the orgasm to manifest or...
to achieve something magically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as I said, not really a lot of examples that I could think of
without looking into the 1970s porn industry.
Quite, exactly. Confessions of a magician or whatever. There's a dated reference, so don't Google that on your work computer either. I mean, the most obvious one that I thought of was Buffy and
Buffy the
Vampire Slayer. Her relationship with Angel, which they eventually consummate, and at the point of it culminating.
You could just say the words. We're all grown-ups here.
Angel transcends and reaches a point of pure pleasure. I think. What's the phrase? Pure bliss, and loses his soul. Which is not a good selling point for people trying to lose their virginity, which I think was happening at the time for one of the two participants. Anyway, it's like you had sex, and the guy you had sex with lost his soul. I'm never ever doing that. Anyway, that's a different story. So that was like the only one I could really think of where and that was based on, it was like a curse anyway. So it wasn't necessarily that he was manifesting something. It wasn't something that he was actively trying to achieve. It was something that was done to him. But
so you went quite literal. With intercourse being...
Well, not necessarily intercourse, but it was I mean, the way the story was sold, it was that, it was having sex with Buffy and the joy that brings at the point of orgasm was always implied, heavily implied. And that was what caused him to transcend, and the curse kicked in, or
the other way.
Or the other way.
Remember?
Or corrupted him.
Yeah.
Because he'd been cursed with having a soul. Mm-hmm. And he seemed a bit weird that they had cursed him and put in a loophole, but that's up. Anyway.
We're not, this is
narrative choices.
This is not the Buffy podcast. No. We could take it up with those people.
It could be. So that was like I did take it quite literally, but then you were explaining to me that actually there's probably loads of examples on a lesser scale, or depending on how you interpret things. You seem hell bent on visiting Japanese anime, which as a fan of the Studio Ghibli films like Totoro and Spirited Away and Princess Mononoke, I can reassure you right now, there's none of that shit in there.
Yeah, I think I was thinking of other things like maybe Ghost in the Shell and
I'm not even sure what there's stuff in Ghost in the Shell.
Not magic stuff.
No, you're looking at like hentai and stuff, which is kind of a bit porny.
Yeah, but I did say we weren't just going to talk about porn, which anime is not. It's art.
Exactly. There are other areas of it.
Yeah.
But you did say, which kind of blew my mind a little bit.
That's what I'm here for.
Even things like Disney contains elements of sex magic.
Yes.
True Love's Kiss.
Yes, that's the bit that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about some weird top shelf Disney that I've seen.
Double D Disney.
Yeah. I promise I haven't seen some weird top shelf Disney where the Little Mermaid and the Prince and all of that stuff is explained how that is possible. No, I haven't seen anything like that. No, but I think where it connects back into the objectives of sex magic, you're supposed to be about transcendence or descendance into a different state of consciousness. And certainly the very innocence of true love's kiss. And it has to be that. It's not just a goodnight kiss from your mum or whatever. That's not it at all. But true love's kiss, that can change you. That can change like the endorphin centers in the brain. All the dopamine is going haywire. And
so it's like the purity and the power of the emotion. Yeah,
especially when it's connected with a buildup of energy and that kind of desire. And, you've both been looking at each other or whatever. And I don't know, just saying that is just as valid as the get your kit off, let's, lube up and get on with it. That you might see in other movies. That's all.
Double D Disney. Yes, but then that notion, which I think would be described as true love's kiss, like a gateway form of sex magic building up to what comes later, but also raised an interesting question without wishing to sound too politically correct, but with regards to the notion of consent.
Yeah, I was going to come on to that in quite an epic monologue later.
Because the greatest examples of true love's kiss have been when people are unconscious and they are being revived by the power of true love's kiss.
Yeah.
Snow White, for example, Sleeping Beauty, that sort of thing. But the people that are being kissed are unconscious.
Yeah.
And I know that there's a big, and I'm not sure if this is getting into the Crowley stuff, but there is a big question mark over sex magic and the notion of consent. So I'm going to sit back for a minute.
Oh, God, no.
I might even go off camera just so I can get the full relaxed pose.
No.
Please feel free to monologue.
All right. Yeah, no, please don't go off camera because then it makes me look like I'm... So you just stay right there. All right. So you've mentioned Aleister Crowley.
Crowley, not Crowley.
Well, he's a bit of a knobhead, so we can call him whatever we like.
Okay.
He was, right, okay, so it's meant to be Crowley, but everybody calls him Crowley. And I think at one point in his life, he said that it's Crowley that rhymes with holy, and that's how I know that you're my friend. But if you call me Crowley, which rhymes with foully, then I know that you're my enemy, or something like that. So okay. I don't give a shit. He's dead. It's Crowley. I ain't friends with him.
Yeah. So it's like a Bowie thing.
Yeah.
But, with a very clear, I'm calling you this because you're a knob.
Yeah. So you've mentioned Aleister Crowley.
Yes.
Right. And I think it's probably worth just putting him into context to the history of sex magic. He's not the inventor, in air quotes, of this practice.
He didn't come up with sex?
He did not invent sex, no. But he's probably the most infamous example. For those people who don't know about Aleister Crowley, well, I'm not an expert on him, and this is just a That Magick podcast rather than a That Thelema podcast, but he basically invented a religion called Thelema, and was a member of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. He was a member of something called the OTO. He was also a member of something called the AA, not the place you go when you're addicted to stuff, but a different organization called the AA. And all of these different groups were kind of around in the very early 20th century, sort of mid 1890s to into the early half of the 1900s. And it was a lot of, I will be quite frank, a lot of white men that were practicing things that originated from Freemasonry, and they were layering over the top a bunch of other either spiritual, religious, esoteric, magic, all over the top of it. I think from my perspective, because I wasn't there, I'm not that old, but from my perspective, it looked like they quite enjoyed the boys' club with the funny handshakes that comes from Freemasonry, and they liked the idea of it being secret. They enjoyed that. And then layering on top all of this magic stuff just kind of made it all a bit more woo and a bit more exciting. And women were at least allowed in to a certain level in things like the Golden Dawn and Thelema and stuff like that. But the role of women within those organisations, I don't think was particularly equal. Certainly in the Golden Dawn, the guy who kind of co-created the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck, for example, he's the one that gets all the credit for that, and yet the artist Pamela Coleman doesn't get hardly a look in. That's just an example of the power play between the male members and then the female members of these organisations, which permeates into the way that the practice, and I'm including sex magic in that as well as all the other kinds that they were practicing, it just kind of permeates all the way through. So Aleister Crowley in particular took aspects of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, stuff that was being practiced in this organisation, which I think was originally set up in Germany, the OTO, and kind of smooshed it together and created Thelema. Thelema, he was quite keen on practicing sex magic through that. It wasn't the only form of magic, because he was hella into his drugs, was Aleister Crowley. He was a raging heroin addict, which by today's standards makes it sound like he was the sort of fellow who lived under a bridge. That's not it. He was born wealthy, for one thing, but we have to remember that at the time in the early 1900s, heroin was just handed out by pharmacists as, oh, this will help you. Yeah, it will help you, but then you become an addict. That's kind of where his heroin addiction came from. He was actually asthmatic, but yeah, so no judgment there with the raging heroin addiction. But he was hella into his drugs, and he recognised that he could achieve different states of consciousness through using drugs, through sex with whoever would have sex with him, and he was trying to pull all of this together through his religion, Thelema. So I don't know what Thelema, modern day Thelema, is like now, but certainly in Crowley's time, sex magic was using all kinds of bits of sex. Not only was it the physical expression, the orgasmic side of it, he would also use bodily fluids as part of sex magic.
This is where we start to get gross. So just before we get into the proper gross bits, was this, I mean, obviously you weren't there, you don't know, but in my head, all I can see is like a big fucking multi-layered castle type building with eyes wide shut type orgy things going on. Yeah? I
think that's quite possibly fair. So the Golden Dawn and people like the OTO, they were really into their ceremonial magic. They loved all the rituals and all of the garb. I mean, even if you were to Google Aleister Crowley, for example, you'd see him in all of his, shit that they wear when they were in the Golden Dawn. So yeah, I think that is a fair leap to make.
Cool. Back to the gross part.
So the gross part.
Bodily fluids. So
Aleister Crowley liked to make something called the cake of light. The cake.
It's not what you called it when you told me about it before.
I know. The cake of light uses ingredients from the human body that are produced during orgasm, or in the case of the female body, that are produced every month. And I'll just leave it at that. Pause for the thing to sink in, and then the gut reaction and the bit of sick in the mouth. Yeah. There we go.
So you're effectively saying that he would take these excretions and he would bake them into food.
Yeah, but it's more like it wasn't just, I fancy tea and biscuits. That's not the idea behind it. The idea behind it...
it's like Sunday roast with a little side dish. Is that horseradish? No.
Promise. No, it was more like, is it Catholics that go up and have the body of Christ?
Oh, yeah, right.
What's that word? Is it Eucharist? I can't remember the word. I can't remember. But they go up and they have the body of Christ in it. I don't know. I'm not Catholic. They wouldn't let me anywhere near the body of Christ, believe me. But when I've seen it on the telly, I know it looks like a little
disc or something.
Little thin wafer, like a flying saucer that we used to have in the 1970s. You know, them sweets with the sherbet in the middle. I'm sure it's not that. I'm sure they're not just handing out flying saucers. I'm sure it's all proper blessed and stuff. But that was the idea behind the cake of light. It wasn't like a side dish. It was for that purpose. It was incorporated into the ritual.
Ceremonial.
And it's ceremonial. Yeah. Absolutely, totally ceremonial. If not a little. I'm not sure I want this. So that was why he had kind of decided that this cake of light was the thing to do.
Was he privately educated?
I don't know.
Because that sounds
he went to Cambridge.
It sounds like the kind of thing that you get up to, urban legends of people getting up to in private boys' school, like boarding schools and stuff like that. Oh, it's a ritual. Sure about that?
Well, there you go. Yeah. So maybe he did learn about this at Cambridge. Maybe, Who knows? Maybe. Who knows? That's where he had his first sort of first true love, arguably, was at Cambridge. He fell in love with, I think he was a student there, but more like a drama type person. He was in like a really big production at the time, like Footlights, I think it was. And the two of them fell in love with each other. I can't remember his partner's name, but he wasn't into all of this magic stuff. So that's kind of like how and why they split up. And I think that possibly affected Crowley, notwithstanding the fact that being gay was against the law. So which may have contributed to some of the secrecy that goes on inside these secret magical organizations. Because if you're there and you want to try and have sex with whoever will have sex with you, some of that might have been illegal under UK law back in the day. So
makes sense.
Yeah. Crowley was also hella interested in sleeping with people who were already married and sleeping with other people, much to the annoyance of his fellow Golden Dawn members. So it was all a bit gross and a bit mad at the time. And I think more recently, a female member of Thelema has put stuff out on the internet about, under sort of hashtag Me Too type stuff. And that absolutely does not surprise me in the slightest. I find it shocking, and obviously it's horrendous. The fact that more people haven't come forward and said that this is how it is for them, I think is the bit that surprises me, frankly, because of the power play between male members of these very historic orders and female members. When we look back into history, we know that the power has always been very one-sided. Crowley himself would write in his books that he published about very misogynistic things about women. I am under no illusion whatsoever that his idea of sex magic, about the polarity, the equality between the male side and the female side, I think that all of that is horseshit from his perspective. I think there's no way he believed in any of that when he would write things like women don't have a soul and stuff. Yeah. So I think the expression to achieve transcendence through the act of the human orgasm and the polarity between the male side and the female, no, I don't think he was ever about that. And I'm quite happy to be convinced otherwise, but I, as of this moment in time, think he was a knobhead, misogynistic, just wanted to have sex with whoever he wanted to have sex with, and completely abused his power as the head of an organisation. And we still see that today, don't we? With other religious, other industries, other businesses. It's just awful, and it's everywhere. Allegedly,
for legal reasons.
Allegedly, yes, but those people have been convicted now, so it's fine.
That's true. Some of them have, but we're just saying, we're talking about people we already know about that have been convicted.
Yeah. So, the power between the male and the female in those organisations. Crowley also met with Gerald Gardner. They were quite friendly towards sort of the latter end of Crowley's life. Gerald Gardner is considered to be the father of Wicca, which is another magical religion. Now, I don't think Wiccans are as heavily into their sex magic as Crowley was, but Wiccans are more into the nude aspect, practicing in the nude, being sky-clad, as it is called in Wicca. And I'm convinced there is a golden thread through all of this to do with dirty old men that just want to look at lady bodies jiggling about and explain to me how being sky-clad or having, running around in the dark, in the nude. How is that any more powerful or relevant to the practice of magic than doing it with your clothes on? I don't get it. I just don't.
Well,
and that's
I'm pleased that was a rhetorical question.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell I get really upset about things like this. I have a lot of feelings about this through personal experience, and I want to change that personally. For me, I wish I could go back in my time machine and just have a word. I know they wouldn't listen to me because they'd go, with all your lady parts, how is any of what you're saying relevant?
Soulless abomination.
Yeah,
quite.
Yeah, but that's the bit that I just would really love people to just stop and go, oh, yeah, hang on a minute. This practice has come from a rich white man who liked sex, an awful lot of sex, with an awful lot of people, and we still kind of carry on with it as if if we could just decouple, or even if we didn't want to decouple, if we could all just know that that's where it came from and just kind of make our own decisions about.
Kind of like when we talked about appropriation and stuff in previous episodes, you just got to think in the round. Yes. Don't just take everything on face value. Do a little bit of research. Make sure that what you're doing is right for you ethically, as well as, to manifest what you're trying to achieve, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So did you want to hook back through to the Disney consent from all of that?
I mean,
I told you I was going to monologue.
Okay, now let's breathe.
Breathe.
It's hot in here. Well, yes, because, all right, true love's kiss, it's only ever presented in those instances as being something innocent, something pure, and it's to bring the person back to life. It's not anything else. But it does raise the question of consent, which I think you've kind of alluded to in your monologue. And you talked about the lady who came out from Thelema and did the revelations under Me Too, that sort of stuff. So there is an overarching question around this. And also, presumably, if you're engaging in sex magic in a consensual relationship, I mean, you still have to tell the person that you're doing this for sex magic.
Well, I would like to think so.
Not just, I'm doing this and then, it's just, it's those kind of, where are the boundaries?
Yeah, I know. And it's interesting, absolutely. I personally haven't practiced sex magic. I don't practice it on my own, which brings me back to the whole polarity thing of, if you're on your own, does it even work?
Well, I want to come back to that because actually...
All right, write it down in case we forget. So I personally don't practice sex magic. But yes, I would like to think that people who are practicing sex magic and there is another person there, they would at least explain that, okay, this is going to be the evening's activity and this is the point behind it. And together we will say some words at the end and then some magic shit will happen and we will manifest whatever. Yeah, I'd like to think that happens in my heart. I don't know that it does because I don't practice it. Never have. Not even on my own.
No, me neither. just for clarity. Now I know what it is. Now I know what it is. I can confirm I have not.
Yeah.
But the on its own thing, on its own, I was thinking about this bizarrely because, and this might seem quite tangential.
Go on.
It might not be right, but it struck me as, is this something like, channeling the power of the orgasm and manifesting and things like that. And I may be misremembering, but I'm sure there is a story, and I'm not going to name the footballer, even though I think everyone who recognises the story will know who it is.
Yeah, I won't recognise this story.
There was a footballer, I think in the 90s, maybe early 2000s, and the story went that before a match, and I don't think like literally just before a match, but in the build up to a match, he engaged in some self-release. I don't know whether, just released the tension, he was feeling super hyped or whatever, or just had the frisk. But he engaged in ownerism to conclusion.
Right.
And went and scored a hat-trick in his professional football match in the top division. So I was thinking,
there you go.
Is that it? Is it that kind of, ritual, if you like? Could that be construed as something like this?
I think if you're approaching it consciously with, this is how I am going to achieve a different state of consciousness, to draw on some energies that exist in the world as part of a ritual to achieve or manifest or
rather
whatever.
Than just, I felt like...
Yeah, it's not just pumping one out, is it? Then I don't know, then you get a lucky win.
Well, but it's weird because on the flip side, there are lots of sports people, managers and things like that, who insist on a period of abstinence, or at least historically they did, a period of abstinence in the build up to a match because they felt that it, I think, weakened the players, or, they were using their energies incorrectly. And this was, I think that this is more to do with, consensual two people getting sweaty rather than sitting on your own. What did you say? Knocking one out.
Pumping one
out. Yeah, but that was a thing. So it's almost like because did they feel it would be negative? What was the word you used? Rather than manifesting, the opposite.
Oh, not transcendence down into the sort of corruption.
Corruption, that's it. So
just for want of another word.
Yeah.
That's
so would it be, corrupting them and that sort of thing? So it was a thing for quite a while that you weren't supposed to,
So yeah, which I think I did just want to touch on for a tiny bit about the polarity.
Yeah.
So this pops up quite a fair bit in Wicca. And I'm not Wiccan, so again, not the expert. Do write in. Please do tell us when we get things wrong. We love that. But
it didn't quite sound as sincere as
did it not?
We do
should we try again?
Education, every day's a school day, and if there are things that people know better than us, it's good to learn these things. But
thank you.
Just be polite, please.
Yeah, that's all I would ask. So the polarity thing, it pops up a fair bit in Wicca. They're very big on their male side and the female side, and the whole deity with the god and the goddess and stuff like that. When it comes to sex magic, this is the bit where I have to kind of go, okay, that's enough Wicca for me now. Because I don't know, and I'm hoping it has changed, but I don't know how that idea of polarity is achieved when you as a person don't identify with either the male or the female, or if you are practicing sex magic with somebody who is not the gender opposite to you, for example, either because they're physically not the gender opposite or they don't identify as the gender opposite to you. And that's the bit that I don't think is clear enough to me, in my mind anyway. And maybe Wicca has just looked at that and gone, if they are practicing sex magic, oh yeah, that's rubbish. We won't do it like that anymore. Or what has happened. The bit that I find so ironic about all of this is that Crowley himself was bisexual. So he will have had partners that were the gender opposite to him, or equally were not the opposite to him, and how it all worked out in his own head, fuck knows.
Well, but like you said, homosexuality was illegal in the UK back then. So is it a case of, I can't write this?
Maybe.
I've got to project the norm, the heteronormative standard that we live in. I've got to make that, that's what it is. I can't say anything else, whether I believe it or not.
Yeah,
I mean, I know he's
fair enough.
He's a knobhead.
He is a knobhead.
And I'm not trying to defend him in any stretch, but I think if I was in that situation and I was writing like a manifesto for stuff, I wouldn't want to draw attention to the bits of it that might get me in a shitload of trouble.
Yeah, I don't think he cared, though. That's the bit that when you see some of the other shit he used to do, like, I don't know, sympathising with Germany in, like, the war, yeah, that was very problematic for notable members of this country to be doing back in the day. You know, you'd have got yourself, and I think he did get himself on a watch list to be sympathising with whoever was deemed to be the enemy of the state of the time. I mean, it still happens now, doesn't it? If you're deemed to be sympathetic to a different group or a group that's on the naughty step for security reasons.
Yeah, I mean, these days you can just tweet criticism and it brings down the BBC. So
yes. So I think I'm not sure he would have cared about what the institutions thought of him to be writing about. Yeah, it's fine, just have sex with whoever you like.
Yeah, but at the same time, would you specifically say this thing that's very illegal, I'm doing it?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I do know that certain incidents that happened in kind of when he'd set up his Church of Thelema, I think there was an incident involving, I don't know, the death of someone or some kind of horrendous ritual that went wrong. Earned him the nickname of the wickedest man in Britain, or the wickedest man in the world, or something. Which is why Crowley, right up until his death, was sort of ostracised by society, and even now, when the name Crowley comes up in pop culture, it's usually to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
That comes from him and the shit that he used to do.
I think it's very the two main ones that I can think of are Supernatural and Good Omens.
Yeah.
And it's very shades of grey, the intentions of the characters. I mean, they are ostensibly demon characters, but, you know, they're not antagonists as such.
No, they're anti-heroes or whatever. Yeah.
You know, there's good in them. I can feel it.
All right, Luke.
Thank you for recognising.
Oh, that's what I do. Yeah. Yeah. So sex magic.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you said to me at the time, it's not what you think it is, and it is.
Didn't you think it was roofying a bunch of people?
All right. Maybe it wasn't what I thought it was.
Because it's not that. It's not.
Although we have got into the notion of consent, so.
Yeah. So sex magic, definitely not about casting a spell on someone so
to
that
have
you...
sex. No, that's true. That is what I thought it was. That is what I thought it was. You effectively, you cast a spell on someone so you could have sex with them, which is, you know, a very negative type thing.
Yeah, that's totally rapey.
Yeah, it's very rapey and should not be done whatsoever.
No.
But no, so it's not what I thought it was, but it's not far off.
Yeah, I mean, and it is totally connected to the notion of consent. The true love's kiss, I'm a powerful man in this organisation. If you want to rise higher through the ranks, you will do this. If you want to achieve a certain outcome, you need me to be able to do this.
That's not sex magic. That's just people being arseholes.
Yeah, exactly. Behind the flag of sex magic. Yeah, and this is how it is.
Yeah. This
is how it is in many, many industries. And I'm not trying to single out the magical world for this. I mean, it happens fucking everywhere where, you want a promotion, then, let's go out. Oh, you'd like to have a job in this film I'm making, you know, based on real events. Then you must do X, Y, Z. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just gross.
It is gross.
Gross. And I have feelings about it.
Yeah, well, quite right too. It is gross. It is horrible. Men suck.
God. I'm not saying that. I'm definitely not saying.
We're the worst.
It's just about misuse of power, I think.
Well, no, that's true. The power dynamic can be the other way around, because there are examples of powerful women doing the same kind of things. So, but mostly it's men. It's the patriarchy. It's Crowley and his dudes. All of that. Yep.
So this
is ending on a downer.
Yeah. Well, how can we lighten the mood a bit? How can we kind of end it a bit happier? Not a happy ending.
Damn it! You got there before I did with the joke.
Sake.
I think we did just end it. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Very good. Very good.
Right. Well, in that case,
that's it.
That's
the climax.
That's our show.
So that's it. That's our show. If you liked it, give us a rating and review, share with others, tell your friends. You'll find all our contact stuff over at magentaschoolofmagic.com, including our social media and links to the Magic School itself.
Thank you for listening to Season 3. We'll be back with more in Season 4. Until then, don't be a dick.